happens with Surah Yusuf? Yeah. Starts with the jealousy. Where does that come from? Two wives. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that polygamy is bad. Because look, it resulted in jealousy between Hajar and Sarah. Why did Hajar leave where they were? Because for Sarah, Sayyidina Ibrahim's wife, it was too much that her husband's concubine, his female slave, has now have a child. It was too difficult. The jealousy was too much, right? So the reason why they split and went to someone else was because of the difficulty between co-wives. So Allah tells us in the Quran that polygamy is bad. Allah tells us again in Surah Yusuf, polygamy is bad. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us that wine is good. Did you know that? But there's more harm in it than good. So in life, every single thing, there's nothing that's purely good and purely evil. Wine, there's good in it, but there's more harm in it than good. That's why it's haram. Polygamy is bad, but there's more benefit in it than good. That's why it's halal. So key concept. People are like, yeah, but this happened. I know. There is harm in it, but there's more benefit than there is good. Being a vegetarian, you should be a vegetarian. Look at poor animal who died. There is harm in Eid. All these sheep died on Eid. That's true. There is harm, but there was more benefit than good. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has wisdom, and He sees things that there's good in it and there's bad. And He says when there's more good, then it's halal. And when there's more bad, then it's haram. So many people, what they do is they observe something. Like they say, look, hijab did this to my wife. This happened, that happened. They observe something bad and they say the whole thing is bad. That's not a sound logic. You have to say that there's more harm than good, or more good than harm, right? So here we see that. So then what happens? Fast forward, Sayyidina Yusuf is a young man and he lives in a house with a couple. What happens? Exactly. So here's a problem, right? So again, people make this assumption that there's no temptation between the genders. The default is that there's no temptation. That is not true. The default is that there is temptation. That is the default setting between men and women. So here we have this young man who came to the house as a kid, young man, maybe he's in grade 5, grade 4, grade 6. And so he looks at this woman as, Mama, that's my mum, basically. Now he's in grade 10, grade 12. He is a man, right? He's a man. She doesn't look at him as a boy anymore. And it becomes a huge problem. But people say, oh, it's okay. It's not a big deal, right? It's not a big deal, right? Who's been to school? Okay. Who's spoken to a teenage boy? Would you be happy with your wife in front of a teenage boy? Like, teenage boys are perverted. The reason is because they're not married, right? They have all these hormones and they're not functioning. So they're perverted. And so in a school, it's a normal thing that you're like, okay, in American school, you have a female teacher teaching teenage boys. And it's like, yeah, if you want her to be super disrespected and looked at in really weird ways and all sorts of things to be said about her, that's just normal. Anybody who goes to school, like, yeah, that's what happens. I remember being in class, the teacher turns around and the boys say something. That's just normal. I wasn't in a weird school. That was in your school. That was in his school. That's a school. What are you talking about? That's just natural. And so the bad side of it is the comments, the looking, etc. But the default is, here's a bunch of boys. Of course, they're interested in women. It doesn't matter. There's a 20-year gap, right? In England, it's always raining and depressed, right? Everything we hate, we love and hate ourselves, basically, in England. We love ourselves because we think we're still Great Britain and we still run the whole world. But we hate ourselves because it's kind of lame, right? It's not a nice country on many levels. So we watch in England, some people watch English soap operas, but we also watch Australian soap operas, right? Home and Away and Neighbours and things like that, right? So anyway, there's a soap opera, Australian soap opera. And Australians, they're similar kind of dialect, but they have sunshine and they have surfing and whatever, etc. So this is a normal picture in a normal scenario where there's this kid who is 14 and he's getting in trouble at school. So he's spending a lot of time with the principal. and the principal's trying to help him. She's about 40, 45 maybe. She's not ugly, but she's about 40, 45. He's 14, right? She's spending a lot of time with him, and she is trying to help him. And she sees him as like my son. He doesn't see her as a son. So you would imagine, oh, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Okay, why did they put it on a soap opera? They put it on a soap opera because it happens, right? I remember being in my language arts class, in English class, grade 6, I think. Not grade 6, grade 7, I think. Maybe grade 8. Grade 7, I think. Grade 7, it was obvious that this respectable, married, young English teacher was totally hitting on the girls in class. Like, it was like, you could see the giggle. It's like, that's called flirting. There's no numbers being exchanged, but it's just, and it's okay. And he's not going to get fired for it because that level of flirting is acceptable. Because why would he be interested in them? Of course. Why would a 30-year-old be interested in some 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls who wear like this? Why would he be interested? Of course he's going to be interested, right? That's a normal thing. Go to Bangladesh and find out in the streets of Dhaka, what's the average age of a girl being sold? She's not 40, is she? Right? So the thing is I'm trying to talk about is we have this intentional naivety, which makes it okay for lots of haram to happen. And flirtation happens, and this happens, and that happens. When it's like, that's not the reality. The reality of humans is that they're interested, so therefore be careful. Right? When someone's like, so here we see this in Surat Yusuf. Here is a very handsome young man who lives in a house with a woman, and it just gets too much. And it's like, oh, it's okay, And so who is it? One of Sheikh Faraz Rabbani, he said this, he's a big mufti here, and he's in Canada now. But he said, when does cases of zina, where do you deal with it? He says, I see it in two cases: cousin brothers in Indo-Pak culture, and what's it called? It's called MSAs and MSAs. So MSAs and cousin brother. So what's a cousin brother? There's some word for it in order to cousin brother, right? Which is that here's this kid who's hanging out with your daughter at the time, but because it's okay because he's family, right? He's not ajnabi. He's always hanging out. He's coming over. They spend the night, and then things happen, of course, because people are interested. That's a normal thing. So then zina happens. You're like, why did that happen? Oh, that's strange. Like, that's not who's the fool is the person who set up that situation. Similarly, here's an 18-year-old or 19-year-old. She's just left home and she's working with Imam Bakr is going to come and give a talk in whatever it is. Where does he go and gives talks? LMC or something like that, right? She's away from home, and the other religious kids are away from home. So what happens now? They're dealing with religious kids. So like, it's okay. I'm religious. He's religious. There's no issue. Yeah, but it's 12 o'clock at night, and you've been working for the last 5 days on this project, and there's laughs, and there's this, and there's that, and you see him, and he sees you, and things happen. So people are like, no, it's totally fine. And it's like, it is not totally fine. It is not totally fine, right? So things happen. So when you come along and say, oh, you have to have gender segregation, you have to do this, and I was like, oh, this person's extreme, this person's a Talib. No, you're a person of fitrah. You're like, oh, this is the nature of people. This is the nature of people, right? This is what you do. This is how things work. And so Allah tells us countless stories. Here's a case. The whole concept was, in the beginning, the middle of the story is an issue basically of a rape scene, basically, right? And I remember subhanAllah, sharing, and who is it of a woman doing that to a man? So is there going to happen the same thing with a man to a woman? Of course. So whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Is it the fault of the individuals, or is it the fault of the person who is too naive, right? And just thinking, oh, it's all okay. It is not okay. It is not okay, right? And so you have to be realistic. This is reality, right? This is reality. Yeah, the other day I asked the question. You asked the question to about are men by default? What was it? What was the term we used? Polygynous. Polygynous. And it's like, yes, they are. And you ask the question, are women by the default polyandrous? Yes, they are. So that means even if you're married, it's okay. It's like my sister. It's like, what are you talking about? She's not your sister. You have one sister. This is not your sister, right? This is not your mother, right? You only have, and also Allah uses that verse. He says, the people say, oh, this is my son, this is my son. No, it's not. This is your son. This is not your son. This is your mother. This is not your mother. So you have this rapport with a woman. It's like, she's not that old. Old is like 90 plus, right? Like khalas, right? Like some ulama, they say that, for example, you could shake hands with an old woman. What does that mean? That means like she's so old, like she can't even remember those feelings. And nobody can, you can hardly tell if she's male or female, right? But when you're talking about she's old, meaning 40, 40 is not old, 50 is not old, 60 is not old, 70 is not old, 80, right? So the idea to this is a kind of a whole, a whole idea that people have is like, that's not even true, right? That's not even true. So we have to be careful with these things. Otherwise, all sorts of things happen. Anyway, there's many, many more lessons in Surah Yusuf, but that's just one of those things on the side, right? So this is like gender realism. I don't know how to call it, like just people being real about these things. Okay, moving on. And so in Surah Nur, we're going to go skip way further forward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this and talks about skipped 34, right? Surah Nur, I believe is verse Surah 34. 24. Okay, so we have this surah of light. Okay, in the surah of light, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about one of the deepest spiritual things ever. What is this? What is the whole concept of light? Is you can't, it's to see things, right? So if this room was dark, what could I see? Nothing. But with light, I can see everything. And so every single thing is reflecting Allah's light. And so when you see the chair, you're not really seeing the chair, you're seeing the light that is reflecting off the chair. And so you have this ability, your soul has the ability to see Allah in every single thing and in every single instance of your life. When your child was dying, you could be closer to Allah than ever, or you could be most distant. When you were going through difficulties or ease, right? When you just got married, when your baby was just born, when you just got a raise, when you got cured of a disease, you could be with Allah and you can see Allah in that thing, or you could not see Allah in that thing, right? And this is the Nur of Iman, right? And so this Nur of Iman, you can translate this as spiritual literacy, right? Like I look at the wall, I remember like, for example, as a kid, when I saw the word Allah, I saw a sword shape. So I look at the word Allah, how do I see it? I see it as a sword, like there's little swords next to each other because it's spiky, right? I can't actually read what it is. I'm blind to its reality, right? I remember hearing the Surah An-Nas and it has the word nutty, and I was like, oh, nut, something to do with nut, right? So I'm not actually, I'm spiritually illiterate. I don't even know what it's saying. Somebody has spiritual literacy, they can read things, right? And they can read it on a very, very deep level, right? So, for example, they're driving to the masjid and they're thinking, Subhanallah, every single thing that was facilitated by Allah so that I could be here. I was born Muslim. Allah, fossil fuels, mining, the Bronze Age that led to this, to the Iron Age that led to this. All of these things. So this person is like in a torrent of iman, as opposed to somebody who's like, oh man, there's no parking space, right? So this is spiritual literacy. How literate are you, right? How much can you see of things, right? And this is this nur. So anyway, there's whole spiritual things about this surah. But in this self-same surah, what does Allah talk about? Allah talks about the hijab and Allah talks about prostitution. Because if we don't have a society that is chaste and that is happy and that is functioning, then we can't have that nur. There's no sujud, right? You can't be a pimp and be in sujud. Like it doesn't make sense because your life is messed up. You can't live in a place where everything is all over the place, right? Why is it that women, for example, pray behind men? Because you can't be in a sujud with some woman in front of you. Because you can't focus. Your spiritual literacy goes out the window. So when you have people who are like non-stop looking at images, of course they can't pray because they are spiritually illiterate. They can only see objects. They can't see what the objects mean, right? They just see the shapes of letters, but they don't know what the letters mean. Things come into their life. Food goes into the table. Things don't happen and do happen. I'll give an example. The other day, right? I'm not talking about amazing. I'm not trying to praise myself. I'm spiritually blind, so maybe Allah protect me. But it was a sign, right? The other day, I was coming to Isha, and I saw a bunch of kids just hanging out. So I went and I said, "Should I tell them? Should I not?" I said, "Yeah, I should tell them. Who else is going to tell them?" Right? So I went up to them and I said, "Boys, they're not kids, they're adults, right? Let's go and pray Isha." And they literally ran the other way, right? And then while I'm walking over there, there's a lady over there, girl sitting in the car, putting on lipstick. And so what that meant to me is, right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-mu'ti wal-mani'. There are some people who are standing here at Isha, and this could be Laylatul Qadr. We don't know when Laylatul Qadr is. Allah could have brought them and He said, this person, even though they're not going to pray tonight, I want them to just come to Isha and I'm going to give them the ajr of Laylatul Qadr. And the other person who's in the same premises, I'm going to stop them. I'm going to give to so-and-so and withhold to so-and-so. So this is spiritual literacy. Like, yeah, you can see somebody doing something haram and be angry for the sake of Allah, which is good. But at the same time, it's like Allah tells you, Ana al-mu'ti wal-mani'. And I'm telling you right now, I'm the one who gives and I'm the one that takes. Here's this person who was born in Afghanistan and is now a kafir. And here's a person who was born in the Bronx and is now a Muslim. Here's this sister who's whatever it is, she had this background and now she's this background and the opposite. Right? Allah is the one who gives and the one who takes. So you could be at the masjid, but you're not at the masjid. Right? Here's a sister, like, what are you doing in the masjid? Inshallah, I don't know what she's doing. Right? But it's like, who are you putting? She's right over there, And it's like, subhanallah, right? So this is when you see things, right? When you see things, right? And things make sense. You can put it through a lens as opposed to confusion, right? I don't know what's going on, I'm confused. So anyway, let's look at this thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surat al-Nur, verse number 2, and for the female and male fornicators, somebody who commits zina, give them 100 lashes and do not let pity for them make you lenient in enforcing the law of Allah. So in this surah, it mentions there's 2 punishments for adultery. Adultery or zina. Zina means intercourse with somebody you're not allowed to have intercourse with, right? So adultery in English means cheating on your husband or wife. It's not the same, right? So zina in Arabic then is that when somebody cheats, somebody has intercourse, they either had intercourse before marriage or after marriage. So here's this person, they're Muslim, they're married, and they're married to a woman, etc. And then they cheat on their wife, or they divorce their wife and then have intercourse in a haram way. Okay, this person is considered what's called muhsan, somebody who is expected to behave in a certain way and they didn't. This person is stoned to death. This person is not what's it called? It's not lashed. This person is stoned to death, right? So a man or a woman, right? If they get married and they consummate that marriage and then they commit zina, either in that marriage or afterwards, this person is stoned to death. And important to understand, what age could that happen? Right? So in America, right, the default is a child, until you're 18, there's juvenile hall for people who are like under 18, because under 18, you're not considered an adult. Now in Islam, that's not true. So here's a kid, he's 13, he just got married, he just reached puberty, he just got married, and then he cheated on his wife, and he's just 13, and then he's stoned to death. Like, how? He's only 13. It's like, yeah, in your mind, he's 13. In Allah's mind, he's not 13. In Allah's mind, he has reached puberty. That means he's responsible. So in our culture, I don't know when it happened, somewhere in the West, they started to invent this thing called teenager. That actually never existed in the West before. It didn't exist. It's convenient in our society because it makes money, right? The longer you are dependent and the longer you take you're irresponsible, the more you're going to buy. You're going to buy more shoes, more phones, more cars, more this, more that, right? The other day, we're talking to some of the brothers. He's like, I think when he's 18, he bought his kind of a kind of a car, what is it, khimar or something like that, and he had to fix it up and do this and do that. It's like teenagers are good for the economy because they waste money and you can make money out of them. Whereas if he got married at 18, he would not buy a khimar, would he? That's not a priority for him, right? So the teenage mentality is a new thing. And we have to, as parents, we have to be very careful with our own kids, right? Because basically kids have three or four stages, I guess like three stages: baby, training zone, adult. So baby is up to 7. That's baby. Training zone, 7 to 10, 11, 12, right? That's training zone, right? The Prophet ﷺ said what? Command your children to pray at 7 because now they're in training zone. They're now in boot camp, right? So for a girl, that could be like she has 3 years to work things out, right? Sometimes even less than that. So you look at your daughters, she's just a little kid. Actually, she reached puberty at 9.5 and left the deen and got hit by a bus. We look at it as like, that's just weird because she's just a kid. She's not actually a little kid. That's just the way you look at it. That's not how Allah looks at it, right? And so this is a key concept. Is like, oh man, we look at it as elderly people. That's because we mature so late that we're only mature at like 40, 50, right? And everybody is a kid until at this age, which is not true. Because in Allah's eyes, you're in training zone from 7 till puberty. Like 7, you're like there. The kid lied and he intentionally lied, right? Like he knew he was lying. You tell him go make wudu, he intentionally didn't make wudu. Like he knows what's going on. It's just pretty hard to do things right when you're 7, 8. But it's like 7, 8, 9. You've got 10, 11, 12, puberty. That's it. The ball is now rolling. Right? That's it. Ready or not? That's it. And so it's not a joke. So anyway, so this mentioned, so why does Allah mention this? He says, because we cannot have a society that is falling apart because you don't know who your parents are, right? Like, what does it feel like you don't know who my dad is, right? How can you look at your mom and you're like, okay, I was born in September, and it's like, oh, but mom, you said daddy wasn't here in that time. So yeah, you're not from daddy. It's like, so you are the accident of a Christmas party. Like that doesn't, how do you feel? It doesn't feel good. Like you know, it's like, hey, mom, mom, why'd you get, what happened with you and dad? How'd you get a divorce? Actually, I was totally high when we got married. I didn't even know I was getting married to him. How do you feel? You don't feel good. You don't feel good, right? So Allah's trying to honor you and create a system around you where you feel respect for yourself, you feel respect for the people around you, and there's dignity. When things like this happen, no, this is not, you're destroying society. So key concept, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tell people to police people in their private lives. So lots of funny things happen in people's private lives. But here, this is now public. This has been seen by 4 upright witnesses, or there's a confession. This person has come to the court and they said, I have done this, right? And so as far as I know, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, nobody was stoned to death for adultery because of 4 people seeing them, but rather they came and they confessed. They said, I did this. And the Prophet ﷺ said, you mean this? He said, no, I mean this. And was very clear about it. And the Prophet ﷺ said, like, are you insane? And he's like, is this person crazy? Like, no, this is a real thing. Right? So now this thing is there in front of the court. Society now knows that this thing happened. This cannot happen in society. This is eradicated, right? In a very painful way, right? Like a public shooting is not nice. Being stoned to death, you don't die immediately, do you? That's a very violent way of killing somebody, very painful way of killing somebody, right? And so it's pretty serious. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us what? You want to have that beauty of Iman, you have to have a society that works. You've got to have a society that works. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions on first verse number 4, okay, does that mean we can go around making lies about people? No, you can't do that. So zina is one crime. Another crime is called qadf. That's a criminal offense, which is when you say so-and-so committed zina. And so now we're going to say, if you don't have 4 witnesses to back up what you're saying, you're going to be lashed. You're going to be physically beaten by the court. And we're not going to accept you in testimony anymore. Right? That's a crime. So you can't go around saying things. So again, people come along, they say things about their wives, or they say things about their husbands. That's just a criminal offense. Is a serious criminal offense, right? That you cannot do that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in verse 6, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and so an-Nur deals with the situation of what do you do if you know that your husband or wife has cheated on you, but you don't have 4 witnesses. So this happened. One of the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, I don't know what to do. If I speak, I'm going to get beaten for saying something without 4 witnesses. And if I don't speak, how am I supposed to live like this? Like, I know she did something. Like, I know it. So the Prophet, the verse of the Quran mentions what? That, we'll read it. So it says, verse 6, it says, and those who accuse their wives of adultery, but have no witness except themselves, the accuser must swear 4 times by Allah that he is telling the truth. And a 5th oath, he says, by Allah, I am speaking the truth. And he says, and may the curse, the la'na, the curse of Allah be upon him if he's lying. So he's asked in front of the court to be cursed by Allah if he's lying. So now his wife is stoned to death. That's it? No. Now she takes the mic. And she says, for her to be spared the punishment, she must swear 4 times by Allah that he is a liar. And the 5th oath is that may Allah be angry with her if she is telling the truth. So now what happens is she has defended herself now. She is now no longer going to be stoned to death, right? Now, if she's lying, she's lying. And she's got to deal with that on Judgment Day, right? But what happens now is it's effectively a divorce. They're now divorced. They can never be together. And if there's a child involved, that child is not his, right? So this is li'an. So again, what is the point of li'an? Is structure in society. What is the point of structure in society? Your khushu' and prayer. That's the whole point of the deen. That I can actually function like as spiritually on this high level that's going to come in Surat al-Nur. Okay? And then there's a whole issue with other issues there we're going to go on. Then it says, and then it goes on to the surah of hijab. Now, the surah of hijab, it does not talk about hijab. This is a key concept. The hijab is used in the Quran with regards to women. That's to do with the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, that when you speak to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, you speak behind a curtain. So when you say, mashallah, my daughter's wearing a hijab, that's a term that you use. That's not the Quranic term. The Quranic term for hijab is a curtain, right? That means your daughter is now wearing a curtain. Why is she wearing a curtain, for crying out loud, right? So that's the concept, that when you speak to the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, you speak to them from behind a parda, right? That's how it is, right? A curtain. You don't see them, right? That's hijab. So what does Allah tell women to wear? He does not tell women to wear hijab. So it says, where are we? So it says, until here. And he says, O Prophet, tell the believing men to lower their gaze. Don't look at the haram. But TV is halal, right? I'm not a mufti, right? But if TV is halal and the iPhone is halal and the screen is halal, right? What is the concept in fiqh? Is anything that normally results in haram is haram. That's the concept in fiqh. Anything that normally results in haram is haram. Is it normal that watching TV do the haram? Yes. Is it normal that you have a teenager on a phone and he's going to do the haram? Yes. Is it normal they have a teenager in front of a screen and he's going to do the haram? Yes. Right? Not even a teenager, an adult. That's normal, right? So how is it halal? Again, I'm not a mufti and I'm not giving a fatwa, but I'm asking the question, how is it halal? Right? The only thing is that there's a mitigating need, right? As a mitigating need. I had to go into that brothel because my friend was in there and he was being killed. Why did you go into a brothel? Because my friend was being killed. Okay, you went into a haram place that often results in haram for a reason. So I'm on the phone because the screen, I have to be on the screen. This is my job. I had to go onto this website. I had to go onto Temu and type women's dresses. MashaAllah, why did you have to do that? What are you going to see? Any person, like you typed in women's clothes on a website, what are you going to see? You're going to see crazy stuff. You're going to put in, as a woman, you type in things, you're going to see all sorts of stuff. So they say, oh, it's okay. It's not okay. It's okay when you were pushed to do it. I didn't have a choice. Oh, I live in California and it's summer and everyone's half naked. What am I supposed to do? Stay home? I understand you, right? But why did you have to go to the beach? Why did you have to go to these things, right? So there's certain things like if you know that's going to come up. Anything, for example, to do with men's things and teenage boy things is always going to have random images, right? I just like cars. That's why I bought this car magazine, Habibi. If you go to a car magazine or car website, it's like, dude, it's one and the same thing, right? And so that's just how it is. So we have to say anything that normally results in the haram is haram. So don't go there unless you have a pressing need. Why do you need to have that be on that screen? This is my work. This is pressing. As opposed to you just surfing the net, just watching TV. Of course you're going to look at the haram. Of course you're going to look at the haram. That's why they put her there. You know, on Fox News, they did this. They took away the table in front of the good woman. Right? Fox News, watching Fox News, there's a presenter. Obviously, she's good looking. But she has a table in front of her. They took it away so that you can see her legs. So then you're going to have more views. Right? So then like, oh, I'm forced because I had to find out what's happening. The only way you could get reliable information is Fox News. Right? Should I slap you now or after the class? Like, but when should you be slapped? Right? Fox News is not a source of information, is it? Right? I had to be there. No, you didn't. There's a million websites you can go on, right? A great source of news is Hararat. They're like way more reliable. They tell you all sorts of things about what's happening in the world that it's a bit more, but you'll see this, right? You're going through all this Gaza stuff. I know. You see Gaza and it's like, boom, where'd that image come from? Boom. All these things are coming up because they know that you're a man and you're looking up this stuff and you're Muslim, they want to ruin it for you. It's intentional, right? So this is the thing, lower your gaze, right? So, and now it's Eid, I don't have a choice. I have to be with my relatives. This is Silat al-Rahim. No, it's not. That is wrong. That is wrong. Nobody is forcing you to hang out with your non-mahram relatives. No one's forcing you to do that. Hi, bye, move on, right? That's just how it is. Oh, it's awkward. Nobody cares about awkward. You care about awkward. Allah doesn't care about awkward. It's awkward to pray. It's awkward to wear hijab. I know. Life is awkward. Remember the hadith? Allah surrounded hellfire with temptations. And He surrounded paradise with difficulties. It'll be weird. People will label me. It doesn't matter. If you can sit with that cousin of yours and you're like, yes, it's totally fine, go ahead. If you can't, bro, why are you sitting there? It's obvious. This is normal nature, right? Normal nature. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, lower your gaze, right? Lower your gaze. Take the means to lower your gaze. Tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their chastity. That is purer for them in the sight of Allah. And tell the believing women to lower their gaze and guard their chastity and to not reveal their adornments except what is normally appeared. So here the Sahaba, they disagreed on what does that mean? To not reveal their adornments, their zina, except what is normally appears. So many of the Salaf and the Sahaba, they said, it means the face and the hands and the ring and the kuhl. So your face and the hand and the ring is an adornment, is zina, and the kuhl on your eye is an adornment. That's okay. Many of them said, no, that's not what it means. What it means is that a woman covers herself completely such that she's covered, but you can obviously see her height, right? She's taller than so-and-so, she's bigger than so-and-so, despite herself, right? And so, basically she's dressed like Cousin It, Cousin It from the Addams Family. Nobody? Cousin It? Yeah? Okay. No, I'm getting old when, not that old, right? We're just like really weird. Cousin It. Cousin It was like one of the relatives of the Addams family. She's covered in hair, so you can't. She must muffles, like you can't. She doesn't say anything. So the point is, here's a sister. You don't even know she's walking towards you, away from you, because you're just totally covered, right? And so it's that you're looking at her, and it's like this is not even haram for me to look at her because I'm not even seeing her. You know what I'm talking about? And now, why is that important? Because it cancels the whole gender issue. I'm not judging you on your looks. I'm not judging you on your shape, right? It's not like the normal office setting where like that's actually part of the dynamics, right? It's now cancelled, and it's not there. And let them draw their veils. It doesn't say hijab over their chests and not reveal their hidden adornment except to their husbands, etc. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes through a discrete list of your mahrams. Why is it a discrete list? Sometimes in the Quran, Allah speaks very generally. Some people understand it one way, some people understand that way, not a problem. Here it's very, very specific. So and so, so and so, so and so, so and so, so and so. Because it is important. It's not okay to have it. It's a red line issue. Like it's very, very specific. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells women, don't wear hijab, right? Hijab is not what a woman is being told to wear. She's told to cover her body. There's a fundamental difference between covering her head and covering her body, right? So sisters, it's not easy, right? Hijab. So, but the key thing is like, we've been told this idea that you should wear hijab. Nobody's telling you to wear hijab. They're telling you to wear jilbab. That's what they're telling you to wear, right? They're not telling you it has to be this clothes or that clothes or this clothes. But the point is, you look at this woman, you cannot see the line of her body. She turns around, it's like this and like that. So I had a question.
Can you explain it to jilbab?
Jilbab is an Arabic word. So it comes in the Quran. There's two words that will come in the Quran. One is khimar, which is something that covers from your head down to your knees. And jilbab is a similar kind of thing. So basically a cloak. So they're told to wear a cloak, not to wear a hijab, right? So again, it doesn't matter what the material is made of. Is it made out of this, made out of that? Is it called this? That's not the point. The point is, this woman, she walks out of her house, her husband, she say, when I turn around, can you see my body? Right? And you're like, yeah, totally. Like I can see everything. So then you're not doing what we're talking about, right? We're not doing that's so like, I wear hijab. No, you don't. That's not because Allah didn't even tell you to wear hijab. Allah didn't even tell you to wear. Allah told you to wear khimar or to wear the jilbab. So meaning she's dressed in a way. She goes into the office. You look at her from the side, turn around. Can you see this? No. As opposed to a lot of ridiculous things that we see. It's like, this is stupid, right? This is like, what kind of لا تتخذوا آيات الله هزوا. Don't take Allah's signs as a joke, right? Are we going to be like some of those Orthodox Jews who, they wear hijab by shaving their head and wearing a wig? Right? That's a joke. You're treating Allah as if he's a fool. Allah is not a fool, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to have respect, keep the respect. Your body is for one person to see. If your body is visible, you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Is that very hard? That's extremely hard. That's extremely hard for you to turn up in the, not extremely hard, but for some women it is. If you're very skinny, it can be a bit easier to wear certain clothes at work and certain where it's kind of easier to cover yourself. But for some women, it's like, that's actually quite hard. I have to wear quite a lot of things. Usually it means you have to have something from your head down. Because otherwise, if you go shoulder down, you can see the form. So you're going to have head down, right? So is that awkward? It's awkward. But this is the deen, right? Remember we mentioned the verse yesterday, it's kind of changed. This is a concept. This is a change in deen. Where a sister, mashallah, she's wearing hijab. Nobody asked her to wear hijab. They asked her to cover her whole body. That's the concept, that she turns around, you can't see her form. Right?
Like nowadays, hijab is just a cover of the face,
yeah,
and the whole body is exposed.
Exactly.
Tight
So
t-shirt and tight.
Exactly, and it's pointless.
That is not hijab.
Exactly, that's not hijab. Yes.
You mentioned verse you said. Remember the verse we said yesterday? Just now.
I can't remember what we were just talking about.
Because you said, remember the verse we said yesterday? You said like it's gonna change.
Oh yeah, we said it was about disciplining your wife. Okay. It's like go online, nobody can explain it properly, and they explain it away in a funny way, and nobody can even translate it. And it's like, bro, it's.
Can you come up with different opinions?
That wasn't even different opinions. That was just straight. There it is. It's like pretty simple, right? And suddenly now it's not even there, right? The deen you can't say on the minbar, and you can't say it here, and you can't say it there. So we'll explain it in a funny way. So the deen is like literally being changed in front of our eyes. Right? If you don't like the deen, there's the exit. You know what I mean? But we're going to change it. But you know what I mean? It's like, this is the problem. It's like when you're going to change the deen, it's a problem, right? It's like, here's a problem, right? It's much better, right? For example, you're a sister and you don't wear hijab. You say, I do not wear, for example, I taught a sister, for example, she does not wear hijab. And she told me, says, I shake hands at work, right? I prefer that she knows what the deen is. And she says, I am doing haram. This is me, right? I don't pray 5 times a day, but I know that you pray 5 times a day, and this is what the prayer is. I prefer that than I don't even know what the deen is, right? When it's like nobody knows what you're even talking about, right? Because that's what it is. That's Judaism, Christianity. We don't even know what the deen is anymore, right? Real Christianity is Islam, but real Christianity has gone. So that's how it works. It just disappears, disappears, disappears. How did Jesus pray? Oh, nobody has a clue. Nobody has a clue, right? And so this is the case. Like at least you know what it is, right? I don't wear hijab. In fact, she's a lifeguard at a swimming pool. It's like, okay. And then, but at least she can sit down and explain to you, this is haram, this is haram, this is haram. At least she knows. And then she can tell the next generation, this is the deen of Allah, as opposed to, we don't even know what the deen of Allah is, right? So anyway, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the whole point of hijab then? The whole point of hijab is khushu' in prayer, hudur in prayer. When I'm praying, I'm focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because I live in a society that is not messed up, right? That's not messed up. So these laws are in place. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this woman is covered. And then for her, excuse me, she's talking to a man. It's like, there's nothing to see. I remember looking at this image. I was at my mother-in-law's house, and it was an image of Afghanistan, and they have there's a bunch of women buying shoes at a shop, right? And normally I wouldn't be sitting there looking at an image of women, but it's like it's so covered. I'm not even looking at the women. Like you can't see the women, right? So now, yeah, what's it called? Chadar, right? It's like it's so covered, you can't see anything. You don't know what her shape is at all. So now I'm talking to her, right? I'm not going to put the price down because of her body, am I? And she can't use her body to get the business deal done, but that's how it is. Like that's how business works, right? That's how business works. She uses her laugh, she uses her charm, right? She dresses in a certain way, and things happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. It's like mini zina, right? Lots of mini zina, and then things fall apart. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, no, dress properly, except a certain list. Who can you expose your hair to? Who can you expose your body to? Your husband, your father, your father-in-law, your son, your stepsons, meaning your husband's son, your brother, so they're brothers, sons or sisters' sons. So your sons or your brothers, sisters' sons. Other fellow women. Here there's a debate. What can you expose in front of another woman if they're not a Muslim? Right? So the default is a Muslim woman in front of another Muslim, her awrah is the same as a man, right? So a man can expose from his belly button up and from under his knees down, right? So the default with a Muslim woman in front of a Muslim woman, can she breastfeed in front of another Muslim woman? Yes. Could she change and expose from this area up or from the knees down? Yes, she could. Okay, what about in front of a non-Muslim, right? So here the Hanafis, they say, in front of a non-Muslim, you cannot expose that. You can't expose your hair to a non-Muslim. So the Hanafis, they say you cannot go, for example, to a salon where even if there's only women there, like it's a place there's only women there, you can't go to a salon where the hairdresser is like a non-Muslim. You can't do that because you can't expose your hair and body to a non-Muslim woman. Period. The Shafi'is, they say no. You can expose what is normally exposed at work. So she's, for example, working manual labor. Right? She's in a kitchen with a bunch of women. There's just women there. And here's a Jewish woman, a Christian woman, etc. She can roll her sleeves up. She can take her hair off, take her hijab off, this area here, her legs up to here, but she couldn't expose her chest in front of a non-Muslim woman, right? You can't do that. California, I don't know how, it's like different things. And it's important to understand lesbianism is real. Right? Lesbianism is a real thing. It exists, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants people to be healthy, decent, sexually satisfied people so they don't do weird stuff. Like women do things like this. Like they will do, lesbianism happens, and it can happen because women are not sexually active and they don't know how to express themselves in any normal, safe way. So these things happen anyway. And there's other discussions about the other things. I'll leave that now. But there's people who are not your mahram. So who is not your mahram? Your cousin is not your mahram. Your uncle's, so your aunt's husband is not your mahram. right? So you might call him uncle, but he's not your uncle. And it's okay, he's like my uncle. He's not your uncle, right? I remember telling this to these, teenage girls, like, oh, it's okay. My uncle gave me a hug. So you're giving him a hug as an uncle. He's not giving you a hug as an uncle. He's giving you a hug as a teenage woman, right? You are being sexually abused in front of everybody. You don't even realize it. That's what's happening. That's the reality of what's happening, right? And so people need to know that. Who's your mahram? Who's not mahram? This is, as a woman, this is my son. This is my brother. This is my dad. This is my granddad. This is my uncle. Uncle meaning through blood, not through marriage. So that your aunt's husband is not your mahram. Similarly for a man, this is my sister, this is my daughter, this is my niece, this is my aunt, this is my mother, my grandmother, my great aunt. These are my mahrams. Okay, what about my cousin? She's not my mahram. What about what about my brother's wife? Not your mahram. Super not your mahram. Right? We repeat the hadith I mentioned before. The Prophet said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالدُّخُولَ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ. Be very, very careful of hanging out with women. There's a place where there's women, red alert. I'm only going in there because I have to go. Right? You should be scared. You shouldn't be like, oh, bro, man up. It's not a big deal. They're not going to bite. Right? The issue is no danger. Right? Things, haram can happen. And they said, what? أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ الْحَمُلَ. They said, what about the brother-in-law? He said, al-hamul maut. Your brother-in-law is death. He's the worst person. Right? The worst person to talk to, communicate with, be around, because it causes fitna, and that fitna will be not just destructive, will be nuclear warfare. Because suddenly there's this tension where now two brothers can't trust each other. I'm not saying anything happened, but that's not how you should speak to my wife. And now he's like, bro, I didn't say anything, and then boom, the whole family is now split apart, right? Because people are dumb. Be strict. It's going to be easy, right? Drive safe, and no one's going to die. That's what Allah's telling us. Rules are tools to protect fools. We are the fools. There's rules there to protect us. Allah's not trying to control us. Allah's trying to say, live a safe, behave in a clever way, so that when you're praying, you can pray. You're not thinking about, man, my brother's messed up. Then why did you invite him to the house then, when your wife is right there? Right? Why did this happen between you and your aunt? It's like, she's the same age as you. But yeah, because she's the same age as you. And she's not actually your aunt. She's your uncle's wife. She's the same age as you. And now this weird thing happened, right? And it's like, that's when he messed up. Yeah, don't do it. Right? And so people need to, and there's an exhaustive list there for a particular reason. So people know, this is my mahram, this is not my mahram. Who can I shake hands with? So and so. I cannot shake hands with so and so as anybody else. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to 32. Inshallah, we're going to conclude here. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and marry off the free singles among you, as well as the righteous of your bondsmen and bondswomen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we want a society where people can focus in prayer, where they have one goal and it makes sense. We need to get people married. So again, huge fitna. The Prophet ﷺ said, when a man comes to you who's khuluq and deen, you like he has good akhlaq, right? He's mature, he has good akhlaq, and you like his deen, then marry him to your daughter. And if you don't, there'll be a huge problem. What do we do? MashaAllah, you're very good. Tell me in 10 years once you have your masters. Right? So what's he doing for those 10 years? Right? So a teenager, let alone a man, is built to be sexually active. Why in school do kids, I teach a school, right? Every single thing you say, they laugh. If you say pencil, it means this. If you say, give me this, it means this. If you say this, it means this. Every single thing means something sexual. Why? Because their hormones are telling them to be sexually active, but they're not allowed to be sexually active. So this not fitrah, right? The Prophet ﷺ forbade us from, he said, people, my ummah will still be safe as long as they break their fast ASAP. You don't delay. You don't say, it's after Taraweeh, I'll eat. No. Because you're gonna forget your Taraweeh, you're gonna be hungry and you're gonna be tired, you're gonna sleep through Fajr and you wake up at Fajr time, and now you're gonna break your fast after Fajr. Don't do it. You're weak, you're not strong. Break your fast. delay your suhoor as much as possible and break your fast as late as possible, as early as possible. The same thing with marriage, right? There's a hadith this week that the Prophet said, if a woman, if you have a daughter who's 12 years old, you don't marry her off, and she does something shameful, that sins on you. And again, I teach girls, you see how they are, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6, all these things are happening in their heads. All these things are happening in their heads, right? They're not going around sleeping with people, but all this thing is processing, right? They'll have their famous actor, like the certain actors they like. You ask them, which singer do you like? This person. They have little crushes on because that's how Allah made them like that. The little women and little men. So it's only part of the fitrah is that when this person has reached puberty, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the context of orphans, He says, إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحِ, when they reach nikah. Nikah means intercourse, and it means puberty, and it means marriage. So when they reach nikah, meaning they've reached puberty. So here's a person, he's a man, right? He's 13, 14, he's a man. He's supposed to function like a man, but no, not until you have your PhD. So then he or she again engages in all sorts of haram things, either with the eyes, or with the ears, or with the this, or much worse. And it's okay, it's not a problem, right? It's okay, it's not a problem as long as people don't know about it, right? That's how we function, but that's not natural. The default is the one limiting factor should be akhlaq. Are you getting into a fight every single day? Yes. You're not getting married, Habibi. You're not getting married because you're immature. You can't control your tongue. You can't control your fists. You don't even know. What's your homework? When's your homework due? I don't know. Okay, right? Like I remember being at college, right? I was much older, but being at college with like young Jordanian men, it's like this guy comes in, and what does he have in his lecture? He's in like a second or third year of his course, and he turns into the lecture with 3 things: his phone, his cigarette packet, and his lighter. That's all he has. He is not there to study. And he's telling you, comes in, puts that on his desk. He's not taking notes. He doesn't care about the test, doesn't care about anything. The guy's immature. 20, 25, doesn't matter. You're just immature. You're a fool. Right? This person's just a fool. Right? This person's all he's thinking about is, I don't know, something stupid. As opposed to this, he's a kid, he's 12, 13, 14, has a game plan. Right? Like my brother, for example, my brother's an ER doctor. When did he start studying for medicine? At 14. Because at 14, you have to make certain decisions. Are you going to do this? Are you going to do this? So he has a game plan. Okay, when does he have money? Right? And so what do? Is we say, no, single people shouldn't get married until they can have a wedding like this, until they can do this, until they can do this, until this. And it's all stupid. And they end up doing the haram. Right? Because you are not an angel. I'm not an angel. You're not an angel. They're not. Nobody's angels. Thinking that your daughter doesn't think, she doesn't have things that go through her head. It happens with girls before boys. It happens with girls before boys. And that's not because she's a bad girl. That's because Allah created her like that. Allah created her to have children. That's how she functions. Allah created her to have children. So she starts thinking like this. Allah created your son to have children. So he started thinking like this. Right? That's just the nature of people, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, marry off the free singles among you, as well as the righteous of your bondsmen and women. They don't have any money. They have zero money. They have zero money. So again, the way we think is, doesn't have any money. Right? That's not how it should be. That's not how it should be. It should be easy. His brother wants to get married. Are you responsible? Are you this? Are you that? Right? But we think about how people will look at us. Oh, it'd be embarrassing if this happened. That's not how it works, so we can't do it. Right? But this is wrong. People need to get married, let them get married. They'll make mistakes. Okay, let them make mistakes. As long as they're mature mistakes. Right? People can make mistakes, but there's immature mistakes. That's a dumb thing to do. Right? Like he got divorced the first day. I'm like, okay, bro. And you're asking daddy to marry you out again. Okay, fine. Let's see it in a year or two, because you got married. You married for one day, right? Or you couldn't do basic things like you couldn't just do, whatever it is. That he ran away with his wife somewhere. Like, bro, you're still in grade 8. Like you have homework to do, right? So I have no problem with getting married in grade 8, but you do your homework. Like you have to be mature. And then you got a divorce or whatever. It's like, because if you reach puberty, you can divorce your wife, right? So you were in grade 8 and you divorced your wife. That's pretty stupid, right? Or you agreed you're not going to have kids, and now you're like in grade 9 and you had kids. And like, what are you doing, right? As opposed to you have needs like anybody else has needs, and these things need to be dealt with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again in Surat al-Nur, Allahu Nur samawati wal ard. You want to have Allahu Nur samawati wal ard. Sort out your family, sort out family, society. Afghans, Arabs, I don't care who you are, people should be married. People should be married young, not at 35, right, or 40, whatever. So those people who are not married, and even the people who have zero money, the people who are at the bottom of society, they should be married off. And so how much does it cost to get married? So what you do is, I live in California, you say, what is minimum rent in Brentwood? What's the minimum rent here?
3.
3 for a house. Oh, I'm not about a house, for an apartment.
2,500.
Yeah.
2,500, nothing less than that? Okay. So let's say minimum, we need 4K a month, right?
Yeah.
4K. So now we divide 4K by 30. What's 4K divided by 30? About 700, right? So, bro, do you have $700 in your pocket? Yeah, it's good to go. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Do you have enough money to get married? Yes. Okay, what's the mahar? $50. Great, let's go. Muhammad Amin, can you call Sa'ad? We're going to make some pizza, inshallah, for iftar. And khalas, we'll just make an iftar and a wedding. Khalas, that's it. And they get married at straight after Maghrib, and the iftar is their party, and khalas, done. Thank you very much. $700, right? In Kabul, how much you need a month? $200 a month?
Yeah.
Okay, $200 a month divided by 30. You have enough money for tomorrow? That's good to go. You're good to go, right? $50 to buy some meat and some food for whoever's there, plus what's $200 divided by 30? Mm-hmm. It's about 70. You got no, it's not even 70. About 7.
7, yes.
You got set, Habib. So I'm going to turn up some kid, young man who's 20 in Kabul. Hey, can you get me 20? Can you get how much you said? We said $20? No, we said $30, right?
7.
$7. Can you get $7 by tomorrow? So yeah, you can take my daughter. Don't worry. That's the mentality that we should have. So the fuqaha, they'll say some of them say that. Some fuqaha say you should get married even if you can't afford it. It's sunnah to get married even if you can't afford it. Some fuqaha, they say you should get married only if you can afford it. But what they mean is you have one day. Not, you have no career. What's going to happen? What's this? What's that? That's not how it works. Nobody will get married. And then what's going to happen? Nobody's married. Everybody's committing zina, either in reality or with their eyes and everything. And it just goes on and on and on. And there's no khushu' and prayer, and there's nobody in the masjid, and it's all messed up. As opposed to every single person had a chance. $7, right?
$6.
So what's he going to say? Well, you can take my daughter for $6. That's what he's going to say, right? Because you don't apply the Quran, Habibi. That's why. Because for you, Allahu Akbar is just a word. It's not a reality. That's why. So I'm interested in, do you have akhlaq? Do you have enough money for one day? Because who knows what risk is going to come to you tomorrow? You get in the car and go to Uber, mashallah, Uber Black to whatever, SFX or whatever. It's like, great. Suddenly you got more money. Because you love the dunya and you look at the dunya as if it's going to last forever, you're thinking, no, he has to have a PhD, you have to have this, you have to have that. Nobody will be able to get married in California if you think like that. Nobody can get married. Right. So I remember I mentioned this yesterday that they made it, that they said, what is the zakat like in Amman? If I used to live in Amman in Jordan, right? Is that somebody who's earning less than this, they can receive zakat. So how much was it? It was 800 Jordanian dinars, which is like $1,000, $1,100. I was like, who in Jordan earns that? Nobody. So like the whole of Amman is zakat eligible, the whole of it, right? So then how do you function then, right? So you say you function despite it, right? So people have to put their standards down, right? Women have to put their standards down. Family have to put their standards down. We have to focus on akhlaq and just help the guy out. Help the guy out. It's okay.
This shape, you're 100% correct on it, but especially in Afghan culture, the moment you do that, it's like they will say to the girl that you gave up, oh, your family didn't value you at all.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this is what Sayyidina Umar is saying. Sayyidina Umar said this. He said, if high mahar, right? The mahar, you say haq mahar, what do you call it? What's mahar?
Yeah, similar to
Yeah, like they said, oh, I think order they call it haq
But the
mahar.
mahar, like my brother recently married, and he paid $50,000 in Afghanistan. That does not even make sense to me. You know, like how? Like because that's how.
Yeah,
they
so
live
anyway,
like this.
so Sayyidina Umar, he said, had high mahar been a way of honoring your daughter, the Prophet ﷺ, he would have asked that for his daughters. Who are the best daughters in the world? The Prophet ﷺ's daughters. So again, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, just on your tongue. Right? We recited the other day, Surah Al-Hujurat, right? وقالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قولوا أسلمنا, right? ولما يدخل الإيمان في قلوبكم. Right? Iman is not in your hearts. Right? You might dress like a Muslim, but you're not actually Muslim here. You're Muslim just here. Because until the standards, right? حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, no, we're not going to accept it until you make the Prophet ﷺ the hakam between you and other people. How do you function with other people? Right? Who's right and who's wrong? Oh, so apparently I'm right and I'm wrong and she's right. Okay, if that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, fine, let it be. Oh no, Afghan, I have to be right. My wife can't be right. It doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong. It matters the Prophet ﷺ, what would he do? If the Prophet ﷺ was in your shoes, what would he do? That's what counts. So La ilaha Muhammadur Rasulullah means something. It is not just a word. It means the way I drive, walk, talk, marry, buy, every single thing is Muhammad Rasulullah there or not. Simple. Right? My son was reading from I can't remember which surah it was yesterday, and he was mentioning about jihad. And then right after jihad, he says, who does Allah give victory to? People that if we give them control, here you go, you can run Afghanistan. Right? They establish the prayer and they do this, and they command the right and forbid the wrong. Didn't that Taliban didn't they do that? They stopped mahar or something like that, something.
Yeah,
And it's like, why? Okay, so I'm a Talib. This is not Taliban or Farid Dingle. They're Hanafi. I'm not even Hanafi. I've never been to Afghanistan. That's just deen. That's just deen. It's like, this is fasad. You're destroying society by making it impossible to get married. You love the haram and you hate the halal. That's what it is. That's what it is. And go on Eid, that's what's going to happen. Did you go on Eid? Did these girls see those boys because they're getting married? No, you just love the haram and hate the halal. That's what it is. Simple as that. What was it? Who was that famous singer in Afghanistan who got a second wife? What's his name?
Oh yeah, right here. He's in here actually. Right now.
Anyway, I'm teaching grade one. I'm teaching grade one. And one of the girls, okay, this just tells you what happened. One of the girls of grade one, she randomly comes up to me and says, this guy cheated on his wife. And I said, we shouldn't say stuff like that. I don't know who the guy is, and we shouldn't, and then I told the dad, I said, you shouldn't, your parents, you should be careful what you say in front of the kids. So it turns out nobody cheated on anybody. They just applied the deen, and we label the deen as zina. So the halal is the haram, but the haram is halal. All right? Can we see that's right? That's how it is, right? Here last year we did the play of Macbeth, right? Shakespeare's Macbeth, and the witches in the beginning, foul is fair and fair is foul. They're going to flip everything. That's how it's going to be. The good will become bad and the bad will become good. The Prophet said that in a hadith. What will you do when your children do this? What will you do when your women do this? What will you do when you see the haram and don't stop it? And what will you do when you see and don't stop it? They're like, how is that going to happen? He said, it will happen. And he says, what will you do when you see good as bad and bad as good? That is exactly where we are. You see good as bad and bad as good. If I don't shake hands with my cousin, I'm being rude. If you get a second wife, you're cheating on her. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's all off. If you're a teenager who is watching porn and you want to get him, that's okay because nobody knows about it, right? Or he has a crush on an actress. That's okay. It's not a big deal, right? But it's weird if he got married in 8th grade. You know, see how we see things? Like, that's just how it is. Like, oh, that's really weird, right? And so we have to, we have to get our bearings right. And the key thing then is tell your sons, grow the hell up. Because I'm ready to get you married any minute you want. Your wife can come and stay with me, whatever. We'll help you out. But you're immature. That's your problem. Like you are your own worst enemy. Like you act like a kid and you're 20, 25, 30, you still act like a kid. So you're never going to get married. And if anybody asks to get married you, I'll tell them to their face, my son is a bad person. Don't marry. He's irresponsible. Right? And there we go. Right? So that's what we should stand at, as opposed to your son is very irresponsible, but you hide it. Afghan culture, right? Like you know that your son is really, he's a temper. You're like, no, mashallah, I pray 5 times a day. Right? You know, does she wear hijab? Of course. And stuff. I was like, bro, this girl does not wear hijab at all. Right? And it's like, no, mashallah, she's very deendar, she's this and this. That's khiyana. Like they can't do that. It's haram. Right? So it's we have to put these things. So again, what are we talking about though? We are not talking about teen marriages, nor are we talking about zina, nor are we talking about how you should dress. We're talking about khushu'. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be like Sayyidina Musa. Right? It was a beautiful thing. I remember asking one of the kids at school, we did Surah Taha, and it's like Sayyidina Musa speaks to Allah. He says, I said, what would that be like? And one of the kids, he's in grade 7 or 8, he said it would be unspeakable. I was like, mashallah, what a beautiful thing to say. Like the 7th or 8th grader is like, he's like, wow. Like, so Allah wants you to have this throughout your whole life. Right? Like Sahar ibn Abdul Salam al-Tustari, he said, I was 10, I did sujood and I never came out sujood ever again. Like that feeling of sujood, like, Ya Allah, I just want you. I just rely on you. You're my only hope, my only dream, my only fear. He said, I never came out sujood. That's what Allah wants us to do. You know, stop this, stop that. Do all these things. And then there's another verse as well about even about prostitution. Don't force your female slaves into prostitution. So again, prostitution destroys society. Soon is it legal now in California?
Yeah.
It's not. Nevada is legal, right? So it's like, well, what's wrong with that? It's like you will destroy society. You will destroy everything. If you could just pay to get that, and you don't have to fix your marriage, or you don't have to be married to begin with, then what's going to happen to the kids? There won't be any kids, or the kids will be like, yeah, what was your mom's job? Well, like, bro, like you have no respect for yourself. So now, like, how are you asking me to get to this high level of iman, and I'm nothing? I see myself as nothing, right? That was it. Like, so this is horrible. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants a nice society so that everybody feels good about themselves and they feel happy and honored, and then they can pray and they're a dignified way. You go to Eid and everybody eats on Eid because we give food to the poor, not just some people. You go on Hajj. Oh, now people are going to have meat, right? Everybody feels equal, right? And so this is what the deen is supposed to do: fix society, to fix your heart, so you can worship, you can have a pure relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what we're talking about. It's not hijab because it's culture. It's not zina because it's bad, right? That's not true, right? And so we have to be cognizant of these things and keep to the rules. Rules are tools to protect fools. You don't want khushu' in prayer, do what you want. Do what you want. Go speak to anybody who lives a life like that. Go speak to somebody who has to deal with people who aren't dressed properly. Like, how is your khushu' and prayers there? It's not very good, because this is the life that I have to live with, and it's not comfortable, right? And so we have to be very, very careful. And inshallah, we'll go on to some other key concepts. I know we've gone like half an hour over, inshallah, tomorrow, and we'll stop talking about this topic because we killed it. I know, and it's like done this, as my brother, he wasn't married yet. He said, let all, what is it? What is it? He said, let all posterity know that there's more to life than shadi, right? Shadi means it means we're getting married. It's inaudible, right? So like basically everyone's talking to him, but he's a doctor, and he's like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? Right? He's like, let all I want all the future to know there's more to life than shadi. This is true, but as we mentioned before, the dunya is basically three things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes with a deen that organizes these three things. The dunya is money, power, and the opposite sex. That's the dunya. That is everybody's dunya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He gives you a deen, He organizes these three things. So therefore, He's going to talk about these things. So a deen that doesn't talk about those things is not a deen. I'm a Buddhist. Like, what does your deen say about gender interactions? Nothing. He's a homosexual prostitute. Like, subhanallah. And like, what's your job got to do with your what's it called? Your spirituality? Nothing. Our deen is a complete deen. Allah has something to say about your money. Allah has something to do with power. Allah has something to do about politics. So religion and politics, of course, of course they're related. Religion and the opposite sex, of course, are related. And religion and money are related. And if you try and take it away, say, why in the masjid you talking about money? Why in the masjid you're talking about the opposite sex? Why in the masjid you're talking about politics? Politics should be over there, right? This is politics. You know who stands here? The politicians. The Prophet ﷺ was the politician. The Imam is the Imam. So the person who gives the khutbah is the Imam. The Hanafis, they say you can only have one Jum'ah. Why? You can only have one politician, right? I'm the ruler. I'm telling you, right? Not the Hanafis. By default, the majority of scholars say Jum'ah is from the word Jama'ah. We need everybody in the city to come together because there's one message from the one ruler, right? So this is a political thing. Jum'ah is a political thing. It's not a religious thing. It's a political thing. But we think it as no, deen is one thing, politics is something else. Because why? The kuffar want us to think like that. We think opposite sex is one thing, religion is something else. No, that's not true. Every single thing in your life, Allah is with you. He's with you in the bathroom. He's with you in the door, the hinge. He's with you in charging your computer. He's with you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you in every single thing. He has something to say about every single thing you do. He's with you. Because He wants to connect with you and He wants you to be happy. He doesn't benefit, you benefit. We benefit. May Allah forgive us all. Subhanallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka.